Good morning, Serenity.
Good morning.
We are here to identify a target setting approach for your student learning objective for the second marking period. Tell us a little bit about the work that you've done on your SLO thus far.
Sure. Our PLC noticed that our students are able to demonstrate their understanding verbally of scientific content. However, when we ask them to put down what they understand in written form, they're unable to demonstrate it at the levels that we feel like they're understanding the concepts. And so we wanted to be able to implement some instructional strategies that will allow them to scaffold their writing and get them to a point where they're able to demonstrate in written form what they're able to share with us in class verbally. And so this ties to our SIP because we want to close the achievement gap with our African American and Latino students. In addition to that, we have a SIP goal of improving our academic writing. And so this fits perfectly into some of our larger school goals. What we did is we took a look at some data and we wanted to develop a group of students that we would be able to focus on with this SLO. And so we pulled their reading levels of the students, or the reading levels of the students, and then we also looked at their grade 7 ELA final grade. We always provide common tasks for our students, and so we didn't want to look at the entire common task. We wanted to drill down to just the written portion. And so we pulled the grades for the written portion of the common task and included that as a piece of data to look at. And then finally, we looked at the grade 8 science baseline data.
Okay, so just to recap here, looking at your area of growth, it's about students being able to construct an argument using evidence to explain a scientific phenomenon. So you've chosen a very important area of growth here. Many educators can relate to students being able to construct an argument using evidence, both oral and written form. In a number of ways, you've tied in your SLO to the school improvement plan in terms of a focus group of African American Latino students, and then also the focus on academic writing. In addition here, you've collected some baseline data and identified a target group of students. And not only do you have some baseline data, you have some other forms of data that we might be able to use in order to inform the target setting approach. So we know the goal here is growth to mastery. We know the goal is proficiency. Our timeline is very short. It's just a marking period. So what we need to do here is to identify a benchmark target that will show that these students are on the path towards proficiency and send them that message that they're on the path towards proficiency. And then for you as the teacher, you will also have some information by establishing this benchmark yourself as to, how well are these students on the path towards proficiency. So given that information and looking at this, the approaches in the target setting guide here, 6 of them, which one of these target setting approaches do you think would be most appropriate and rigorous for our students here?
Of the 6 options, in looking at our data, I feel the banded approach is the most appropriate. We sort of have a wide range of student performance on that baseline data, and I want to make sure we're able to set some incremental growth targets for the students. And so if you look at the data, Rosie and Sarah are performing at the highest levels, and so I would put them in band A with a target of 8 out of 10. So they would be increasing about 2 to 3 points. If you take a closer look at Carlos, Jamal, Demetrius, and Christian, I would set their target at about 7, place them in band B, and really expect for them to grow about 3 or 4 points across this marking period. Finally, we have Mario, and Mario is struggling the most with demonstrating his understanding in written form. And he came in at a score of 2 out of 10. I would place him in a group by himself. I would put him in band C and expect for him to grow 4 points to reach a target of 6 out of 10. And if you look at this, we're really trying to close the gap of these students so that they're able to eventually get to mastery.
Yeah, and then we're expecting the most out of Mario,
Absolutely.
who has the lowest baseline score, and he, in order to hit his target at the end of the second marking period, would 6 out of 10 would have to grow by 4 points. Okay, so just to recap our conversation, we took a look at the SLO that you've drafted thus far and the data that you've collected, and we've identified what we think would be the most appropriate and rigorous target setting approach for this group of students that you identified, which is the banded approach.
Thank
Right.
you.
Okay, wonderful. It's been a pleasure working with you all
Thank
this
you.
morning, Serenity. Appreciate it.